Today we would be talking about All About a Dog. This is a prose piece written by A.G. Gardiner. A.G. Gardiner is a famous essayist and he wrote with the pen name of Alpha and the Plow. He wrote about contemporary topics, he wrote about social and political issues, and his style of writing is very charming and very humorous. And we have many interesting pieces which have come from A.G. Gardner, and there is a great skill which is being observed in his writing style, and he writes as if as if some craftsman is working on the piece of writings. And his essays are about general humanity, about the behavior of the people, their various moods, how they feel at time, and how they feel at times, and how differently they may behave, or how different they are at different points of time. And this essay is also this essay, or we can say a prose piece. Its form, or it is in the form of a short story, and which is being narrated by the author himself. And there is a single episode which has been described in this prose piece, and it can be called a story also. But since it is about a single episode, and very soon the readers realize that this is going to turn into a small prose piece which contains a message for the society, or which contains a very subtle message for the improvement of society, or for the improvement of general behavior of people at large. Now there are comments, or there are undertones of class division in this essay. Then there are undertones of misuse of law, or there are undertones of using rules in extremity without losing without having a feeling for humanitarian grounds, or without having any logic behind them. So and there are certain issues which are being raised in this very small piece of literature, which has which has feelings of defiance, which has feelings of control, which has feelings of resentment and misuse of power, which I have said, that misuse of rules. And then there is a determination, which is a negative determination. And there is of course a very subtle division of society into upper class, middle class, lower class, working class, business class, or the intellectual class, which is being represented by the author himself, or middle class, or lower middle class, or lower class, which is being represented by the conductor, the main character of this prose piece, and the upper class, which is being represented by the lady, or the aristocratic class, which is being represented, or we can say somewhere she has, as far as her class is concerned, the lady has an edge over the conductor. And conductor has all his grievance against this class of society. Now this piece begins with the fact that it is a bitter cold night, and there is a bus going, and this bus is being stopped by the chief character, no, the chief woman character of this prose piece. And she has a very small dog with herself, and she is dressed in a seal skin, which is again symbolic of her belonging to a higher class, with a lap dog. And when conductor sees this group of people who are getting into the bus, uh, the author feels that the trouble has started. And he very well remarks, I had marked him. He talks about the conductor. I had marked him as the type of what Mr. Wells had called the resentful employee, the man with a general vague grievance against everything, and a particular grievance against passenger who came and sat in his seat while he shivered at the door. And the trouble begins, as the author says, you must take the dog out. I shall certainly do nothing of the kind. This is the reply of the woman. You must take the dog out, that's my orders. I won't go on the top in such a weather. Certainly not. Now there is, it's a nonsense, her male companion said. Now there is a storm inside the bus. Some people say that it's shameful. Some say he's no better than a German. Why isn't he in the army? Call the police. Let's all report him. Let's make him give us our fares back. Now, these are the general remarks. But this does not stop here. And the conductor is in no way to compromise. Uh, and there is again an argument between him and the lady. And he wants the lady to go out on the top with her dog. And somewhere we think that he is being too rude, but this is the point which the author wants to convey. He was immovable as cold as the night and hard as the pavement. She passed on in a fury of importance to the three policemen who stood like a group of statuary up the street watching the drama. Then she came back and the bus was emptying. Even the dashing young fellow who had demanded the number and who had declared he would see this thing through if he sat there all night had taken an opportunity to slip away. And now we see that I'll go on the top, said the sea lisking lady at last. You mustn't, I will. Now there are her companions who are traveling with her. They say that they would go in her place, but she says she would go. Then there is this dog who is also introduced as a character. And it is curiously looking at various things which are happening. And then we have conductor who says, I got my rules, said the conductor to me when I was the last passenger left behind. He had won his victory, but he felt that he would like to justify himself to somebody. Now, when he's trying to justify himself to somebody, our author says some rules are hard and fast rules, while some rules are for guidance and common sense dictates. They have to be observed in spirit. One has to keep the rules but not to break the spirit. A little goodwill and temper are required for that. Now, this is the message which the author gives in the end. And somewhere he also tells us that sometimes we become too resentful, sometimes we become too rigid or too defined to follow some rule, when these rules are to be followed by someone else rather than us. But if we put ourselves in the place of people who are following those rules, then we would realize that every rule has a humanitarian ground, every rule has a logic, every rule has a reason, and we should not break the reason, or we should not go beyond the logic so that a rule could be followed. Then it would kill the rule, or it would kill the logic in itself. Thank you.